Time to introduce ourselves. Hey, everybody. My name is Aline Lerner. You might find my name familiar because I think you get a ton of emails from me. I'm the founder and CEO of interviewing.io. I was an engineer myself for a while, about 5 years. Maybe that's not very long, probably less than many of you. Then I had to deal with hiring and got interested in it enough to try being a recruiter. Did that for a while, ran recruiting at a few companies, then started a recruiting business, and then ultimately started interviewing.io over 7 years ago now. It's been a while. Salary negotiation is something I love talking about because I got to see all the different sides of the table, right? I used to be on the other side. Like I was the jerk that was asking people to name the first number. And I know what that's like. I understand the dynamics, and having been on that side, I'm really excited to peel back the curtain a little bit and teach you how to avoid some common pitfalls. This session is going to be very practical. We're going to talk some theory. Kevin does a great job in the follow up to this one, 201, and talking about theory. Today, it's going to be very practical down to what to say. I have probably helped, I don't know, like 100 or more people, probably several hundred people negotiate their salaries before interviewing.io and then during. And these days, Kevin is the one that runs our salary negotiation offering. I dare say he is much better at it than I am, and I've learned a lot from him, and I'm very excited to be running the session with him. So, Kevin.
All right. Hi, my name's Kevin, and I've helped 500 engineers negotiate over the last 4 years. This is my passion. This is my niche. This is my specialty. I didn't know that it was at the time when I started, however. It was 2018, and I went to a workshop with a man named Chris Voss, who wrote a book called Never Split the Difference. He was a lead international hostage negotiator for the FBI for like 10 years. And then he wrote this book. I read this book. It changed my life. And I went to the workshop on the same topic, and it absolutely transformed what I thought about negotiation. Up until that point in my career, I had helped a few people negotiate, but not a lot. And then after that point, I helped hundreds. And what I've learned comes from those hundreds of negotiations, but it also comes from having some unique access to being able to read candidate emails and company emails over the years. You learn about what works and you learn about what doesn't work. So beyond that, I actually get some of the best ideas I've ever had from my clients. It's one of the best part about meeting a negotiation coach is that you'll have some people say some genius stuff that you never thought of, and then you get to spread that out into the world with your next client. So I also love talking about this. It's great that we have some beginners in the room and some people that actually have done this before. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what kind of show we could have tonight, because the audience is half of it. So let's see what we can do.
All right. So let's get into it, folks. Let's do this thing. Okay. Before we teach you how to negotiate, I think we have to convince you that you should. Kevin talked about how unlikely it is that your offer will be rescinded. But even before that, right, here are a few reasons why you should negotiate. One is that you will probably get more money and there is very, very little downside. But you might say, well, I'm just starting my career and negotiating is really stressful and maybe I'll do this later. I don't want to deal with it now, or I'm a junior engineer and I actually don't have very much leverage. The reality is that getting good at negotiation takes time, and it's so important to get that muscle memory while the stakes are low. And that's when you're a junior, right? Maybe when you're starting out, there's $5,000 to $10,000 at stake. And sure, that's not nothing. That's a respectable amount of money. But as you continue in your career, right, as you become a senior engineer, as you become an manager, if that's what you want to do, as you get up and up on the ladder, and later, maybe in your career, if you ever decide to start a company and then you're negotiating with VCs, the stakes are so much higher, right? You can potentially double your equity with a negotiation. And if you are at a company where your equity ends up being worth something, that could be potentially hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. So it's really important to get this done while the stakes are low. It's just like anything else. With public speaking, you probably have to give a talk 5 times and fuck up the first few, right? And then eventually it gets easier. With dating, with sex, I don't know, probably with everything. You do it a few times and then, it's not so scary and you get better. And negotiation is really no different. So you just have to get through it, screw it up a little bit, have some awkward conversations, awkward moments. And then by the time the stakes are high, you're going to be awesome. Um, yeah, this is probably what all of you are thinking right now, especially it was like half of you who didn't think that, who thought that this can actually happen. Will my offer be rescinded? Kevin, will my offer be rescinded if I negotiate?
Your offer will not be rescinded for negotiating. Negotiating in and of itself is not offensive. It is unsavory tactics that one utilizes while they are negotiating that is offensive. And there's actually a dollar amount that we can put on how offensive you have to be, because a bad hire, somebody who is brought into a role and they should not have been brought into that role, they're going to cost the company about 30% on top of whatever they make for the resources from other people to double check or redo their work, to be taking from the company in general that could be going somewhere else. So a bad hire costs 30% more than whatever a person's making. On top of that, by the time you reach the offer stage, how much money has a company spent on you? For the people that are in the chat, what's the average amount of money that a company will have spent from sourcing a candidate, finding them? Sam's right on point. Good. It's a lot of money, at least 10 to 30K. That's a conservative guess. It can be higher if it's a particularly niche role, if it is a role that's been open for a long time. Because remember, it's not just the amount of money that they cost to find Sam, for example, if Sam's the person hired, but all of the people that failed before Sam, all the engineering hours going to interviewing all those people. So for you to get an offer rescinded, you have to be exhibiting such risky behavior that either the 30% that would be on top of your salary for you being a bad hire becomes like the most likely scenario, or the 30 grand that they've spent on you is clearly going to be a sunk cost because you're going to be a bad hire as well. I know Aline has stories about this. I have one story about this of an offer that got rescinded. And by the way, for some data, I've seen two total get pulled out of thousands. So the one that I can tell you about that was kind of unique, senior engineer, Bay Area, company sends him an email on a Friday afternoon. Hey, here's our offer. We're so excited. We hope you consider it. Here's this little chart that shows you the different kind of outcomes if our equity goes 2x, 10x, or whatever X. We even have a little chart here for our benefits. And I think they even included like a picture of the people in the office. And they like wrote his name on a whiteboard, like join the force or something like that. Well, he waited 1 week to respond. And then all he wrote back was one sentence. He said, can you sweeten the deal and make it a 4-day work week? Okay. So that's the level that you have to do to get your offer rescinded.
Yeah, I guess I'll tell my story. In seeing same about thousands of offers in my career, I have heard about one getting rescinded. This person was not a jerk. So I think rule one is do not be a jerk when you negotiate. But in this particular case, it was an engineer who was applying to a very, very small startup that had one open headcount for one role. Now, a lot of the assumptions we make when we talk about negotiation are that you're talking to larger companies where they're hiring engineers all the time. It's just an evergreen role and they're perpetually roles open. So it's not like they talk to some number of candidates, they pick one, they close the role, and that's it. In this scenario, that's exactly what happened. So this candidate was first in line for the job. He knew that it was a small company and there was only one role open. And he asked for a lot more money and they said, actually, sorry, we can't do that. We're going to move on to the next candidate. So if you're applying to a tiny startup with one open role with, one headcount for that role, yes, it is possible that if you negotiate, your offer will be rescinded, but I would guess that is not going to be the case for most of you. And by the way, you can always ask your recruiter or the founder or whoever you're working with, like, hey, are there multiple people? Like, is this just for one person? And they'll tell you honestly.
Yeah, no, it's not. Mahai, he was asking to make it a 4-day work week, and he waited a week to respond, and he didn't tell the company he was excited. The company is scared at the offer stage. They're wondering, is Mahai going to like our offer? Are they going to accept our offer? What do they think about our offer? So to not even comment on how you feel about the company or to not state your excitement, that was like the knife that drove it into his own back. But on top of that, language like sweeten the deal just sounds like a greasy car salesman, which doesn't help. And then, a 4-day work week is just like, that's a policy they would have to redo for the whole team. So I think that's the whole, idea there.
Okay, let's keep rolling.
Okay. So, how you define negotiation kind of changes your strategy. So the way that we define negotiation is all the way from the companies you choose to talk to all the way up until you sign an offer. And so since that's true, what we wanted to do is point out a kind of unique hack for some of us and just for others of us, just a constraint to be aware of. So let's say there are two types of companies right now in the world. There are companies like Google who say, oh, okay, Nick, you live in Ohio. Great. Part of the way we come up with how much money to pay you is based off of how much it costs to live in Ohio. And then, oh, okay, Sam, you live in San Francisco. We're going to pay you according to how much it costs to live in San Francisco. That's the first type of company. They pay you based on where you live. That's a less ideal scenario, even though Google pays, well, usually that's less ideal than the other type of company, which is like Reddit. So I think Airbnb recently did this. It might have been Spotify. A company recently announced whatever country you pay in, we're just going to pay you according to that country, which is amazing. If you live in Ohio, you're getting paid how much somebody might make in San Francisco. The same is true for Reddit. Reddit is not like Google. Reddit says, we don't care where you live. We and our headquarters are in San Francisco. So we will pay you according to as if you lived in San Francisco. So if you're
Interviewing.io does this as well.
interviewing does it, yep, and that's true. So I've been thinking about moving to Ohio, actually, living a great life. But this is something that's happened because of COVID. Companies don't know how to pay engineers, period, end of sentence. You do not have a universal value, period, end of sentence. And part of the way that you can increase your value, if you are in one of these lower cost of living areas, is to find those companies like Reddit. And the best way that we could think of that is just a very simple manual process that wouldn't take you very long. But, when you're getting bothered by those hordes of recruiters on LinkedIn, just ask them a simple question. Do you base your compensation based on where I live? That's it. If they say no, that is a signal that their offers are probably better. If they say yes, that's a signal that their offers are probably worse. This is true if you live in a lower cost of living area, especially. In a higher cost of living area, probably it wouldn't make a difference either way. But middle to low areas, this is a good idea. So, yeah.
Okay. Locations aside, in general, negotiation is about 70% leverage and 30% timing. One thing you'll note that is missing here, negotiation is often not really about using the perfect words, right? Or saying exactly the right thing. It's much more about the situation that you're in and the situation that you create for yourself. So we're going to talk about how to get leverage and how to control timing. If you can do both of those things, you're going to be in a very, very good position. And in fact, that is really the lion's share of the work. If you can set up having leverage and you can time all your offers coming in around the same time, and we'll talk about how to do that, unless you're a jerk who asks for a 4-day work week after not responding to the company for a week, you can't really go wrong. So if you line up all the pieces, you're going to be in a very strong position and you don't have to say exactly the right thing. Okay, so how do you get leverage? Well, there are really two things you need to do. The first is do not share information with recruiters or anybody else until you're ready to start negotiating. The main example of this is not to name the first number. We're going to talk a lot about this in this session, but it's not just about naming the first number. It can be telling them which other companies you're talking to, discussing your timelines in detail, revealing your current compensation. So do not share information until you're ready to start negotiating. And the second one, and this is, in my view, the most impactful thing you can do, get multiple offers. Once you have multiple offers, even if you're the worst negotiator in the world, you're still going to come away with more money. Of course, getting multiple offers takes work. Interviewing sucks. Like, this is why our whole business exists, right? Because interviewing sucks so much that a company like ours is something the market wants. But it's some extra work for a lot more money. We'll talk about both of these in detail. But remember these two things. Do not talk about anything until you're ready to actually negotiate, and to get multiple offers.
And a quick, just to piggyback off one thing that Aline just said, if you're interested in the negotiation 201 webinar that is on our YouTube channel, I teach you how, even if you have a lower offer, you can use that to increase the compensation from the higher offer that you have. Quick story, 2 weeks ago, helping an engineer from Facebook negotiate. He gets an offer from Facebook. He gets a lower offer from a startup. And that was all that he had. A lower offer from a startup, lower base, probably equity that's just different because it's a private company, no signing bonus. We got his Facebook offer up $130,000 per year. That's $520,000 over 4 years. It's a house payment, depending on where you live. And that's pretty great. But once again, you can get multiple offers. And even if the offers that you have are radically different, you can position them in a way such that they seem strong when you negotiate. And if you want to learn how to do that, you can watch the Negotiation 201 webinar. Yeah, which is on YouTube. So for the next piece, so why timing matters. So this is the ideal use case. You know, I'm an engineer. I want to join the coolest company that I can join. I don't want to make a decision before all the horses have finished the race. You know, I don't want to sign an offer today and then hear back next week from another company who then says that they want to make me an offer. I want to see all my offers at the same time on the same day. If I have that, it's pretty ideal, not just for negotiating, but once you're at the offer stage, you know, negotiating is half of what you're doing. The other half of what you're doing is kind of assessing fit. So assessing fit when the offers are right in front of you is a lot easier. But in terms of negotiating, having all the offers at the same time, it makes everything easier. There's no juggling. People talk about juggling multiple offers. What they're talking about is they did not manage their timeline. And they have to juggle the sanity of several companies at once because somebody wants them to decide tomorrow and somebody else hasn't even given them their offer yet. So timing matters because your sanity is important to you if you're a human being. And timing is the most likely thing to mess up a deal. Time is more likely to kill a deal than money by a long shot. So it just makes everything easier and your bargaining power is far greater. So that's a bit why timing matters. Yeah.
There are a few questions in the chat. So some of you are asking what to say when recruiters apply time pressure and what to say when they ask you to name the first number. We're going to get to that. We're going to tell you exactly what to say. Somebody also asked about how to negotiate at your current job for more money. That's a slightly different animal. I do want to touch on that briefly because I bet a lot of folks are thinking about it. This is going to sound very, very mercenary, but I've seen people not do it this way, and I've seen them do it this way, and I've seen the difference. If you leave a company and you go out there and you move somewhere else, every time you move, you're probably going to get about a 20% pay increase. Kevin, does that sound right? About
Yeah,
20%?
I was going to say 15 to 20. Yeah.
Cool. If you stay at a company and you wait for your review cycle, and even if you're a great performer, maybe you're going to get 5 to 10% every few years.
Mm-hmm.
So the way to short circuit that is to go out there, interview, and come to your boss and say, look, I really want to stay here. I love this team. I love, name some things you genuinely love. But I see that my market value is actually this much. We won't go, we should probably do a separate session just on this. But if you abstract away a level, the tactics are kind of the same. It is getting leverage, right? Having counter offers. But just going and asking for more money, I've seen people try to do this. They'll get something, but it's not going to be the same as going out there. And maybe even if you go out there, you're not going to get as much as you deserve. And the solution is to change companies every few years if you're optimizing for money. Depends, maybe you're optimizing for something else. So we'll table this one. I did want to touch on it, but I think we should probably do a separate session just on that. And I will make a note of that right now. Let's see, next slide. So how to actually control leverage. When we already beat this into your guys' little heads, so I'm not going to repeat these again, but this is what really, really matters. Let's now talk about not revealing any information. Don't ever name the first number. Just don't do it. Recruiters will try to get you to do it a bunch of different ways. We'll tell you what to say. Do not name the first number. The minute you do that, you have tipped your hand and you have given away a lot of leverage. Second one is, don't talk about who you're talking to and how far along you are. Here's a specific example, right? Let's say that you are in process with you just started talking to some startup and their recruiter says, well, who are you talking to and how far along are you with them? And you're like, well, I'm talking to Google and I just had my on-site. At this point, they're going to think either, well, shit, this person wants Google salaries. We can't do that. Let's deprioritize them. Or they're going to think, well, why don't we slow play this person and just wait to see if they get rejected by Google or not, right? And if they get rejected, then we can make them a lowball offer. In neither of those scenarios is revealing any of that information actually to your advantage. I'm a big believer in kind of negotiating once. Once you're ready to start negotiating, you decide which cards you want to show them, and you decide you don't even have to show the whole card. You can kind of like just show a little corner of the card to give them some idea, but you need to be in control of that. The minute you start giving information away, you lose control. And I think that for many people, this is hard because we're good people. We're honest people. We're not liars. We want to be nice to the people who are helping us and nice to us, and we want to help them do their job. I would challenge you to reframe how you think about recruiters. And I've been one, right? I've been in that position. So I can say this with some amount of certainty. A recruiter in this case, when we're talking about salaries, yeah, maybe they reached out to you, they got you in the door, they were really nice to you. Recruiters can do great things and they can change people's lives. But in the context of somebody who's talking to you about salary and about offers, their whole job is to collect information that they can only use against you. The simplest way to think about it is any information you reveal will be used against you. It's just like when you get arrested. Probably most of you have not been arrested. I have not been arrested either, but I watched a lot of Law and Order. And this is exactly the same thing, right? Any information can and will be used against you. Kevin, you probably have stuff to add here. Kevin and I feel so strongly about this, and we have spent a lot of time offline trying to figure out how to convince people that this is true.
Yeah. So let me add on from this point that Sky is asking in the chat. Is it a good idea to just tell them I'm always at the beginning stage of interview? You're kind of getting towards the right idea. The right idea is to leave them with nothing actionable. Yeah. So saying company names or saying stages is actionable. I know who you're talking to, and I know when you're going to be done. My favorite line is a whole bunch of obfuscation covered in vagueness, sprinkled a bit of mystery on top. It's, I'm talking to a few companies that are at a few various stages. Nothing's finalized yet. I promise I'll let you know before I make any big decisions. What actionable information is there in there? Nothing. And that's the idea. You're being positive, but you're being vague. You're not letting them, take anything from that. And the same is true for how we don't say a number first, which we'll get into later for the exact language, but the same idea is true. You want to be positive, but you want to be vague. So you leave them with nothing actionable. They shouldn't know how much it will cost to get you until you're ready to be gotten. And that's at the very end when you say, if you can do this, I'll sign today. The one other thing is that people in the chat are asking, are we talking about in-house recruiters? Are we talking about third-party recruiters? So we're talking about recruiters, period. In-house recruiters, they get their bonuses. They base their source of pride based off out of all the candidates they extend offers to, how many of those candidates accept offers. Same thing for third-party recruiters. Third-party recruiters get a big fat paycheck when somebody signs an offer. So at the end of the day, all they're trying to do, third party, most time, is just get a butt in a seat, never see that person again, not have to think about retention on a team. Whereas in-house in-house deals a little bit more with retention and stuff like that. But either way, we're talking about recruiters, period. Even if they're your friend, even if they're a third-party recruiter that has their own agency. Yeah.
Yeah, with the exception of a few notable people, some of them are really great and try to do the right thing. You are not their customer. They're getting paid by companies. Now, usually, they will get paid a percentage of your base salary, right? So that's, depending on market conditions, it'll be anywhere from 15 to 30% of your base salary. By the way, if you do the math and you think, oh man, that's a lucrative job, you're right. It is a very lucrative job. Now, you might also say, well, if they're getting a percentage of my base salary, they're incentivized to max out my base salary. Not quite. So, having been a third-party recruiter and having run my own agency, I will tell you very honestly that to me, okay, maybe this person is going to get an extra 20 grand in base salary. Okay, what's a fifth of that? That's 4 grand. Why the fuck do I care about 4 grand when I'm definitely going to get 20, right? I just want to get this deal done as soon as possible. Time is the killer of deals. Let's get my 20 grand. Let's move on to the next candidate. So I'm actually much more incentivized to get the candidate in as quickly as possible at any price than I am to max out their salary. So if you tell them your salary expectations, they're not working for you, they're working for the company. They'll probably go to the company and be like, hey, this is this person's salary expectations. I think if you offer them this, they'll take it. And now you've lost your leverage. So third-party recruiters are especially heinous. I would trust them even less than in-house recruiters, but in-house recruiters, whether you trust them or not, whether they're good people or not, they're fundamentally incentivized differently than you.
Yeah.
Okay. God, I got a little angry there.
Mic drop. Good. It's about time. You of anybody can do it because you've seen all the sides. Okay. So before we talk about why you're not, you already know why you're not going to say number first. It's about 25% of getting your best offer. Not saying a number first is about a quarter of getting your best offer. But before we actually talk about the words to say, the number one reasons that you will not like what we tell you and what we're going to tell you is to not say a number first. The reasons you will be uncomfortable by not answering this direct question is because of the identity that you associate yourself with. There are a lot of scientific people in the room, a lot of data-driven people in the room. If I ask you, how many users reported this problem, you want to say 15. When I say how many times a week is the deployment pipeline not working, you want to say, 2. When they say, what's your number? How much do you cost? You want to say a number because
there's honor in it, right? There's honor in precision and having the exact answer.
Exactly. And honestly, engineers have this, perverse badge of courage about being bad negotiators too, because it's the Steve Wozniak phenomenon. We're like, I don't care about the business. I just want to make cool shit. And it's like, yeah, totally. But we're talking about, once again, a lot of money of your whole career if you learn how to do this. So, to say I'm not a salesperson, I want to answer things in a direct way. I'm not a politician. I want to answer things in a direct way. Let's reframe what's going on here. What if you knew for a fact that the person on the other end of this conversation is trying to use the information against you? How does that change things? A less charitable way of saying this, but it's fun because it's a game and engineers love games, is what if they're trying to trick you? What if they do this 10 times a day with 10 other candidates just like you, and they trick most of them and they rub their hands after they do and they're like, got them. it might make you think differently about the identity you would have in a situation like this. So
Somebody asked in the chat, I think this is a good question. Why not just name a high number? I have thoughts, Kevin. You probably have thoughts. You want to field that one? I think it's worth spending a moment on.
actually I want well my take my take here is going to be different than yours, but my take here is for the use case of this workshop, this is a negotiation 101 workshop. And so there's 50% of the people in here tonight have never even negotiated successfully before. So before we even start muddying the waters with like advanced stuff for them to be doing, we just want them to learn the basics. And for the fact of you learning the basics, that's not even an option. And for everybody else, it maybe would be more advanced. I would say you still never know about the dynamics on the other side of the interaction. You don't know if this is a backfill for an urgent job. You don't know if they've been looking for a long time. I've seen people at 10-person startups make $250,000 for base salary. I've seen wacky stuff that happens that even if somebody shot high, they wouldn't have come close. Or even if they shoot high, they just shoot high in total comp, or they just shoot high in salary, and the company tries to spin it later to give them what they asked for, but not as much as they could have given them. So it's just like poker, man. You don't want to, you want to watch everybody else act first before you act. There is a benefit to being the last to act here. So that's what I'll say.
I agree with all of that. I mean, they have perfect information. They know their salary bands, right? And I know they'll say, oh, we just want to make sure that you're not wildly off. Well, you don't know stuff, they know stuff. You don't even know what you want, probably, and you actually have no idea what this job is worth to you. So any answer you give is going to be incorrect. And any answer you give is going to put you at a disadvantage. Even if you think it's a high number, it's going to put you at a disadvantage because they know everything and you know nothing. Not only do they have perfect information, they do this 10 times a day, and this might be your first time ever doing it. So don't choose a battlefield where you're going to lose, right? You have to try to level the playing field as much as possible.
You also can't negotiate. If you tell me how much you're going to cost, then what bounds do you have later to try to ask for more? Do you know what I mean? Like my whole philosophy is to like bat for singles, load the bases, and then you can swing for the fences, but don't just come out and try to hit a home run. So you're going to make more by being conservative at the beginning and negotiating later, rather than putting your cards on the table and then you can't negotiate later because you already told them what you would take. So yeah.
Cool. All right. Timing.
Cool. Okay. So this is so simple that it sounds stupid. So you might not believe it. I'll tell you this, but this is how it works. Okay. Before they give me an offer, I tell them, hey, just in case you end up giving an offer, here's the date I'm collecting offers, and here's the date I'm making the decision. Or if you don't want to be that direct, you say, hey, just in case you're planning on giving me an offer, here's the date I'm collecting offers, and I will make a decision shortly thereafter. If you do that, companies will listen to you. I have seen boot camp grads who I tell to do this, and they say, I don't have any leverage. I have no professional experience. And they get 3 offers. They tell each company before they get the offer when to give them the offer. They get 3 offers on the same day. And they said, I can't believe it was that easy. And I say, I know. But for everyone else out there, and this is the key, most people are not proactive enough in life. And so they just get their offer. And then they try to control the time problem. But that's not how you do it. When the company has given you the offer, they've probably already thought about what exploding deadline to give you or what deadline to give you. So the idea is to control timing with a deterrent that prevents that from happening in the first place. So by you setting the boundary of what's going to happen in the situation, they can't just throw it on you and say, oh, this is when you're deciding. You're like, oh, actually, no, this is when I'm deciding. What do you think of that? So it's really that simple. Tell them when you want the offers, tell them when you want to decide before they tell you when they're going to give you the offer, and before they tell you when to decide. Yeah, I love your story here about the exploding offers here. How do companies really decide this exploding offer thing? Is it a scientific process, Aileen? How does it
Oh
work?
my God. I mean, it's again like having been on the other side of this, this is so arbitrary. Like, I remember a moment in my career where this really clicked for me because I was extending an offer to a candidate and we knew that he had an offer from some like big fintech company. And I remember like the head of engineering and I were in a room and we're like, okay, what deadline should we give him? Like, what's the most aggressive thing we can do? And we just plucked a number out of thin air. Now, larger companies will have more process, right? This was a fairly small startup. But at the end of the day, these deadlines are completely arbitrary. You can always ask for an extension. Um, they, you know, they might say no, but you can ask, and in most cases, they will say yes. Sometimes it's unreasonable to ask for months, right? But at the very least, you can always ask for weeks. And we're going to tell you exactly what to say to ask for extensions. The most sophisticated strategy you can run here is what Kevin proposed, where you set deadlines. And by the way, when candidates do this as a hiring manager, I am extremely impressed. I'm like, yeah, like this person has their shit together. Like, yeah, this is amazing, and you respect it, right? And it's good to know. Like, okay, this is how quickly we have to move with this candidate. But if you don't feel comfortable doing that, and this is your first go around, you should try it. But if you don't feel comfortable, just know that any deadline for an offer is arbitrary, and there's at least one extension baked into it, probably many more. Okay, so you guys have probably been waiting for this portion. We promised this would be really tactical and we would tell you exactly what to say. So now we're going to tell you exactly what to say. Okay, naming the first number, the thing that you're not supposed to do. You can literally steal this copy. It works every time. So this is also, by the way, these slides will be published when we publish the recording. There's also a blog post on our blog about salary negotiation. It has this exact copy in it too. So it's going to be in multiple places. I'm just going to read it to you guys because I really like this copy. I wrote it. I'm very happy with it. And it's battle tested. So at this point, I don't feel equipped to throw out a number because I'd like to find out more about the opportunity first. Right now, I simply don't have the data to be able to say something concrete. If you end up making me an offer, I would be more than happy to iterate on it if needed and figure out something that works. I also promise not to accept other offers until I have a chance to discuss them with you. So you'll note that part of what to say here is bolded. The reason I bolded that the part that I bolded is because this is the part that disarms recruiters, right? They're going to tell you why they want you to name the first number. It's because, oh, we want to make sure that our offer is competitive and this and that. And we're like, okay, I'm going to just tell you stuff. Like, no matter what you offer me, I'm going to iterate on it. And you can even, I mean, if you say that you promise to not accept other offers until you have the chance to discuss them, you should mean it. Like, don't say this if you don't mean it. But I would advise saying it and I would advise meaning it. You lose nothing by doing this. And now they can't argue with you. You've completely taken away every leg they have to stand on for why they need you to name the first number. Kevin, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I'm always trying to bounce the ball back to them anytime that they push back, because sometimes companies push back, even if your language is great. You bounce the ball back to them. It's like, hey, Apple has a lot more data than I do about what engineers make in the current market. I trust Apple's going to make a fair offer. How can you rebut that? It's called deference. You're putting them above you, like, oh, almighty Apple, you have thouest all the data. It's a very powerful negotiation. And the third thing is, if you need a line that can't be rebutted, the line is, look, I'm really excited about this opportunity. Make me your best offer, and I promise I'll give it my best consideration.
Yeah,
Say it like I just did, and then shut up for a few seconds after, and there's nothing that they can say. So yeah.
actually, that reminds me. So I generally, Kevin and I think differ on this a little bit, but there are many ways to skin a cat. I prefer to do as much of my negotiation over email as possible. You know why? Because email is the best way to level the playing field. So this copy that I've dropped on this slide is actually meant to go into an email. You can also say it to them, right? But when you're on the phone, you have to be on your toes, you have to think fast. Recruiters are gonna, they're used to it, right? We already talked about how they're more experienced than you. Anything you can do to give yourself a little bit of a leg up is good. This also, as a bit of an aside, I thought we had a slide on this, but maybe it's coming up. Recruiters will often try to text you, and you don't have to answer them. Once they start texting you, like imagine you're at work and you're writing code, your head's down, you're focused, all of a sudden your phone makes a sound and it's a recruiter asking you some inane question. The temptation is to quickly answer it to make them go away so you can get back to work. But in the process of doing that, you probably lost leverage. It got you when you're vulnerable. You're distracted. Your like full attention isn't on your phone. Your IQ is cut in half because multitasking. And oh shit, right? You can just ignore them. And you can email them later and be like, hey, sorry, I saw you texted. I actually don't look at my phone during the workday. The best way to communicate with me is over email. You just don't ever have to do anything. You don't owe them anything. You don't have to do shit. Like you don't have to do anything. What you need to do is what's best for you, and they're not going to be offended. So don't do it over text because eventually you will lose because they're going to catch you when you're distracted. Okay. Next one. Okay, exploding offers. This is the other thing we promised that we would tell you what to say about, and here it is. So this is when you get an offer with a deadline of a few days out or tomorrow if the company is really egregiously terrible, or even if it's a deadline that is more than a week, but that doesn't work for you. Here's what you say. And again, I prefer to do this over email. I would very much appreciate having a bit more time. I'm very excited about company X. At the same time, choosing where I work is extremely important to me. Of course, I will not drag things out and I will continue to keep you in the loop, but I hope you can understand my desire to make as informed of a decision as possible. How about I make a decision by blah, blah, blah. Again, the bolded part here is meant to disarm. They can say, well, we just want to make sure that, we have a timeline and we don't want you to drag this out and like, okay, great, I won't drag it out. This is my timeline.
Okay, so we're running short on time, so I'm gonna do this one quickly. Recruiters are still trying to trick you or use information that you say against you. And the easiest way that engineers get tricked is by yes or no questions. Stop.
Especially over text.
Yes, and text feels so casual. They're like a friend. You're like, oh, hello. And you're just saying out information that you would never say in an email. So when they ask you questions that are clearly making you lose leverage, do not answer their questions. Do not answer their questions. Do not answer their questions. Here's the offer. What do you think? Does that work for you? Here's the start date. What do you think? Does that work for you? No matter what they say, don't say yes, because then you're losing your negotiation power. No matter what, you just thank them and you put the ball off for later. I'm going to sit down and think about it. Thanks for the information. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. It's very simple. And also, if you know that an engineer has already agreed when they're going to start working, how hard are you going to try to get them more money when they try to negotiate with you? You're like, I already know you're going to join. They don't have as much power. So yeah.
The other really good copy here is to say that you need to talk to your family. Maybe it's your partner, whatever. But saying that there's somebody else that you need to talk to, if you're not comfortable saying I'm not ready to make a decision, is a really good way to get them off your back. All right, we already did this. I jumped the gun here, but I felt so strongly about this. Okay, this is the final one, right? So this tactic is one that I really like to use. I call it the reverse used car salesman. The reason I call it that is, there's the stereotype about the sleazy, like spit in your hand, wipe your hair kind of sales guy that's like, what do I need to do to get you in this car today? And you can just take that playbook and use it against recruiters. So here's how it works. When you are ready and you know which company you want to work at, you go to them and you say, look, I have the following offers and I'm still interviewing at this company and this company. but I'm really excited about this opportunity. I will drop all my other stuff and sign today. So that's the car salesman part of it. If you do the following three things. And then you ask for more equity, a higher base salary, and either adding a signing reload bonus if there isn't one, or increasing it if there is one. The reason it's important to ask for three things is you're not going to get all three. But if you ask for one, maybe you'll get half of one. If you ask for three things, you'll probably get one or one and a half. And with equity, you want to overshoot. With salary, you want to overshoot a little bit. I generally like to ask for double the equity, because whatever you ask for, they're going to meet you in the middle. This is a law of negotiation. If you ask for what you think is fair, so let's say you have an offer for 100 grand and you're like, well, I think 120 is fair. You ask for 120, you're going to get 110. If you have 100 and you ask for 140, you're going to get 120. So that happens. There was even one time, back when I was an engineer, I went to ask my boss for a raise. I didn't have other offers. I just didn't know what the hell I was doing. I'm like, well, I want more money. And he's like, well, how much do you want? So I said, look, I know I'm supposed to do the thing. I actually looked him in the eye. I'm like, I know I'm supposed to do the thing where I overshoot, right? And then you're going to pick the midpoint. And I don't really want to overshoot. I'm not comfortable. I'm just going to tell you honestly what I want, and I would like you to give it to me. And he's like, cool, okay. So then I told him what I wanted, and then he offered me the midpoint, and I took it. And that was a lesson. That was a sobering life lesson. Here, if you do this, you will walk away with more money. We already linked, I think we linked the post in the chat. Yep. It's also linked here. We plug our negotiation offering real quick, and then we'll move to Q&A.
Yeah. So just real quick, everybody, we've helped a ton of people. We're going to help a lot more. We're helping people get a bunch of money, average of 50K more in cash. And the most important thing is just two things. Number one, if you don't make at least 15K more cash with our offering, you pay nothing. We don't care how much.
Actually, we haven't updated the number of people. It's a lot more than that now. I forgot to update these slides.
Yeah, and the output that we put into this is unlimited. So however emails you want us to write, however many calls you want us to do, negotiation is an emotional thing. It brings up a lot of stuff. So if it takes 10 calls for you to send or go through a whole negotiation, that's fine. The other important thing is when to sign up. Sign up, win, and offer is on the way. We can help you if you're too early, but not if you're too late. So do it before your offer is here. Okay, questions?
And don't name any numbers before that.
Yes.
Make sure we can help you.
Okay, cool. So Q&A. So we got a limited amount of time on Q&A. We're going to do what we can, and then we're going to keep the party going on Discord. So I'm going to rank them from the top in the chat, or sorry, the Q&A function. So the best way to maximize negotiate. What's the best way to maximize negotiation without a competing offer? Hi, I wrote a slide deck on that, and it's pretty good. So I will put that in the Discord, and I already made a note to do that earlier. Benji, should we use resources like Levels FYI to aid with negotiating to better understand total comp ranges? Absolutely. Levels is accurate. It's the best resource for engineers in terms of how much they get paid. And if you don't have other offers, you do need data points, and Levels is the best place to find data points. I was given a form to, this is the next question by Hamad. I was given a form to fill. One of the questions was my salary expectations. It was a required field. How do you avoid that? If I did add a salary, how can I take control of the situation as I feel I've added something lower? The simple question is, the place you're interviewing at is a bad company, and I'm sorry, but that's true. 10 years from now, if you're a senior engineer, no company will do that to you. And maybe you're in a weird industry and you're in like, I don't know, like manufacturing or something, and that's where that company is. So number one, I would actually literally consider not interviewing there. But number two, if I like the company or I actually want to interview there, I would put $1. I'm serious. I would put $1. How do you answer the question of what's the expected salary? Sam, I hope you can answer that one now. It's Aline's blog post answer of maybe we can bring that one back up.
Yeah, working on it. There it is.
Okay. Is there a way to use other offers that are not high to negotiate higher salary without revealing actual numbers? Prakash, yes, that is our Negotiation 201 webinar, which you can find on our YouTube channel. The short answer is, if it doesn't help, don't share it. Can be applied to most things in negotiation.
Let's say, you can say, I have an offer from, let's say it's one of the FANGs, right? Let's say you're interviewing at Google and you have an offer from Facebook. The Google offer just came in, your Facebook offer is lower. You can say, I have an offer from Facebook. And then they're like, tell us the details. You're like, I'm not going to reveal that. Make me your best offer, right? You can phrase it more diplomatically than that, but you can always choose what you reveal. You don't ever have to share details. You should share them if they're advantageous.
When negotiating with multiple companies, what are recruiters looking for when they ask you how you think the interview went? Recommended response? They're trying to close you because they're always trying to close you. They're trying to see if you're interested. They're trying to see if you're excited. They're trying to see if they're going to get the bonus when you sign so they can go to Mexico next quarter and sip margaritas on the beach. When negotiating with multiple companies, where each company's offer can be thought of as tuple of offered TC, number of negotiation rounds left, most companies will negotiate 0, 1, or 2x estimated max total comp. What order do you recommend? Assume unquantifiable stuff like work-life balance, impact, et cetera, is already factored into the TC. I don't know exactly what this question is asking, so I'm going to just answer that. Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that one. I think it's a good question if we could reword it, but I don't want to say the wrong thing. How can you get more compensation from your current job? Something Aline covered earlier, but we should talk more about that in another session. What happens if good question, Sarah. What happens if you've already given a number to a company you're interested in? You're in a little bit of a corner, but you can talk your way out. In life, right? Let's say you're planning to move to New York with your best friend, and then tomorrow you fall in love with a great guy from Paris. Okay, what would you tell your best friend? You'd be like, stuff has changed. So that's what you can tell the recruiter. Stuff has changed. I know I said that I was looking for this, but either my research now shows that I'm looking for this, or I got these other offers that are now showing this. This is what I'm looking for now. Yeah, okay. Is your negotiation power at all affected by your interview performance? Yes, Sam, that's the most determinant factor of your power is your interview performance. If you seem like a high quality, highly skilled, rare find candidate, that's where the leverage comes from. Companies will move mountains for candidates that they're in love with. So make them love you, and then they'll give you whatever you want.
I think I've been reading Maxime's question, and I think I can say something useful here. I think I question the premise of the question, which is that you're going to negotiate multiple times, right? You should save it up and do all of your negotiations at the end. So don't order your negotiations. Don't start negotiating with one company while you're still interviewing with another company. Have all of your offers come in, get the maximum information that you can get, and then negotiate once. And then the simplest way to negotiate once is to run that reverse used car salesman, where you take all the companies you have offers from, rank them relative to how excited you are about each one, not even thinking about compensation, and then go to your top choice and say, hey, you're my top choice. I'm really excited. I have other offers. I'm still interviewing. I'll drop everything and sign today if you do XYZ.
All right, so pour a drink, pat yourself on the back for going through the webinar, and join us in the Discord. I don't know why I said that with an accent. Join us in the Discord. I'm gonna grab a drink and join everybody in the Discord. We're gonna keep the party going. We're gonna start in the voice channel, and then we're gonna go into the text AMA channel. But you can type your questions in the AMA channel if it didn't get answered in here today. So thank you very much for coming. We had a great audience tonight. This is great.
All right, see you guys soon. Thank you, everyone, so much.